Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Peterson. I'm chair of the Department of Psychology at Western Michigan University, and I'd like to welcome you to our ribbon cutting ceremony today to open Western's Evaluation Center for Neurodevelopmental Disorders, abbreviated WECAN. I can't tell you how pleased I am to see you all here today. It really means a lot to me to be surrounded by so many colleagues and community partners as we mark this event in WMU's history. Before I begin, I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that 14 years ago today, a horrific event occurred in this country, the bombings of the World Trade Center. So I thought we ought to probably take a moment of silence to honor those who died that day and to consider the value of life and the freedoms that we continue to enjoy in this great country. Thank you. I recently learned that blue is the color chosen to represent the events of September 11th, representing the beautiful blue sky that there was that day. And as you probably all know, blue is the color that represents autism awareness as well. So I thought that was kind of a nice parallel today. So today we're going to light it up blue. We have a very brief program to share with you today prior to the official ribbon cutting. I'd like to give you just a little bit of information about the center to open this up. I'd like to begin by giving you a broad overview of Western Michigan University's efforts to establish an Autism Center of Excellence, for which I'm currently serving as the director. The mission of WMU's Autism Center of Excellence is to promote the use of evidence-based strategies and interventions for individuals with autism and other disabilities across the lifespan. The interventions that have been shown to be most evidence-based are behavior analytic in nature. And as many of you probably know, WMU's Department of Psychology has an international reputation for being one of the strongest training programs in the world in behavior analysis. When Dr. Fuqua speaks in a few moments, he'll give you a little more information on that. But long story short, we have one of the longest and most esteemed histories in behavior analysis that you'll find anywhere. So we're uniquely positioned to step up to the plate and provide leadership on this initiative. We're also very fortunate to have so many other departments on campus who are willing and highly effective collaborators on this campus project. So this has allowed us to make this a university-wide effort. There's far too many collaborators for me to thank effectively here today. Suffice it to say, I'm grateful to many, many faculty, administrators, students, staff, and friends of the Department of Psychology who are making this all possible. In particular, I'd like to recognize my colleagues here at the Unified Clinics who carried the bulk of the load in planning this event today. Thank you very much. We are going to accomplish our mission through a variety of activities. I invite you to peruse later the diagram here in detail for the broad efforts that will be initiated as part of this Autism Center of Excellence. But broadly speaking, our activities will include training excellent practitioners, both pre and in service, in gold standard assessment and intervention strategies, contributing to the behavior analytic knowledge base in the areas of autism and other disabilities. We also hope to work in promoting effective transitions from school to career, ensuring the availability of high-quality services to families that need them, and finally providing gold standard diagnostic evaluations and other assessments for children with autism. It is this last activity that gives us reason to gather here today. We're so very, very pleased to officially announce the opening of WECAN, Western Michigan University's approved Autism Evaluation Center. This center will assist families in accessing services for their children with autism by making available diagnostic services when they suspect their child has autism. Dr. Ann Tyler is the director of WECAN, and she'll speak in a moment a little bit more about the services. It's very important to note that Western Michigan University's Autism Center of Excellence has largely been funded to date by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. This funding has been made possible by supporters in state government, including Governor Schneider, Lieutenant Governor Brian Kelly, Senator Margaret O'Brien, and several other elected officials, some of whom are here today. We are very grateful for the financial and moral support that we have received from our state officials. All the funds we have received to date have been managed and facilitated through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Service, and we gratefully acknowledge their ongoing support as we implement our goals. I'd like to thank all of those in the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for their hard work on this, including Farrah Hanley, Deputy Director of Financial Operations, who is also here with us today. In particular, however, I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Lisa Grost, who has been our point person in the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and who has been working tirelessly since hired into that position on many autism-related efforts across the state over the past few years. So first I'd like to introduce Dr. John Dunn, who's president of Western Michigan University. We are so fortunate to have a president whose research interests lie in the long-term health of individuals with disabilities. And it's not often as a special educator and behavior analyst and psychology faculty member where you get to have a university president whose research interests lie so closely with your own. So I'm very proud and pleased to introduce to you President John Dunn.
First of all, how about a nice round of applause for Stephanie and the great work that you've done, Dr. Peterson. We appreciate it. Is it a great day to be a Bronco? It is. It's certainly a great day to be a Bronco. Good afternoon and welcome to a new period in our state's ability to assess and deliver services to young people with autism spectrum and neurodevelopmental disorders. I am passionate about what we're about today because of my own work in a much earlier time, but we know that the potential of all people is important to all of us, and the ability to be able, through good work, good research, good programming, to bring all of that forward serves all of us very, very well. It's my pleasure to welcome some very special guests. First of all, Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, thank you very much for being with us. Your ongoing, unwavering support to Michigan families and others with children with autism and autism spectrum disorders. I'm also very pleased we have a good colleague in Senator Margaret O'Brien, and I'll say a bit more about Senator O'Brien in a few minutes. I'm also pleased we have other legislators with us and their support and commitment to what we're doing here and how important it is. Representative Nesbitt, thank you very much. Representative Hoadley, Representative Iden, and let me also acknowledge again some help from some very special people. Linda Gross from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, manager of the Autism Spectrum Disorders Program. Thank you very much for your support. And also Farrah Hanley and the good work that you've done in making sure those fiduciary oversights are in place and doing the right thing. Thank you very much. So today it is appropriate in many ways for us to say kind of welcome back, since many of you were with us just next door at the College of Health and Human Services last year when Senator Margaret O'Brien announced a special appropriations to Western Michigan University to build on its years of service and international reputation in behavior analysis to boost Michigan's capacity to offer needed autism services in a timely manner. Senator O'Brien noted at the time that the dire need for additional professionals to meet the needs of families could not wait. We needed to do it now. And for young people and the services that they need and desire and the help for the families, we needed to do it and we needed to move it forward immediately. The solution, as she said that day, was right here in our own backyard at Western Michigan University. It's Department of Psychology, which enjoys, as indicated earlier, an international reputation for the good work and the leadership that we've done in this field for many, many years. A lot has happened since then, and the pace of efforts in this field is escalating quickly under the guidance of our Autism Center of Excellence. That's important because families don't have the luxury of waiting for assistance. They need it now, they deserve it, and certainly their loved ones do. The need is immediate, so we're using technology to boost training opportunities for professionals, and we're engaged on multiple tracks to meet critical needs. Just last month, we settled on a new location for an expanded Kalamazoo Autism Center that will provide needed space to offer some of the treatment services at this new center we can, right, might recommend to families. This new center is an important tool that will allow our faculty and staff to put their worldwide reputation to work on behalf of families and schools in a way that will significantly move the needle for our state and communities as we work to improve both the quality and timeliness of autism-related services. Years of research and service in applying behavior analysis techniques to the field will mean families will see an expansion of support and training that will improve the quality of life. I want to thank all of you again today for joining with us to be here. This is a very, very important moment in the history of this university. And I want to thank you for all that you do collectively, as indicated earlier, to meet the needs of Michigan's young people and their families. It's a great day to be a Bronco, and we're very happy to have you with us. And let me turn the program back to Dr. Peterson. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'm so very happy that Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley is here to celebrate this occasion with us. Lieutenant Governor Calley has been instrumental in causing an enormous amount of change in this state, and I might add, for the good, especially as it relates to issues surrounding autism. So thank you so much for being here today, and I'd like to invite you to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. It is great to be here, and I guess my question is, how does it feel to be the best? Right? Because really, I don't know if you, sometimes you grow up in an area you have so much exposure to, you're kind of used to just having this resource here, but Western Michigan University is the best in this field. It is the best in this field, anywhere in the nation, and probably anywhere around the world. And it totally changes the direction of people's lives. Mine is one of those families. The board certified behavior analyst that works with my daughter was trained right here at Western. And so that's, and I can tell you that the night and day difference between having professionals like the ones that are created here at Western and not is the difference between opening up a world of opportunity or being relegated to a world of seclusion and disinvolvement. There's a lot of discussion. We hear a lot about awareness, and awareness is important, and even acceptance. And I feel like we've come a long way with acceptance, but where the world changes is with inclusion. And with the right support, that kids can really be set up better for inclusion in the world, and that is what is happening here all the time. As we've tried to expand access, what we found is there are bottlenecks all over the place. And so we needed not just action, but urgent action to deal with the bottlenecks, both from a diagnosis standpoint, but then access to treatment. And now the new frontier, there's a new frontier of intersecting that treatment with the education system, primary education and post-primary education as well. But yet again, here in Kalamazoo is way ahead of the curve in forming the partnerships, in putting the professional expertise together with the local educational systems. These partnerships are making such a big difference. And so when I say, I recently had an opportunity to prove it recently. Every time I'm in Kalamazoo, I say that I brag about this community, the things that happen in this community all over the state. Well, if you watch my presentation in front of the State Board of Education about the special education system, and I wanted to give a good example, I think the best example of where you have these partnerships already established, particularly between Western and Woods Edge and the Kalamazoo RISA, that is the motto I point to. That's where we need to go in the future, and those types of partnerships are going to make such a huge difference. So the Center of Excellence itself is going to be a resource that will help to accelerate that, accelerate those types of practices getting better and happening more often. And so for everybody that's involved in it, thank you for making it a priority. Thank you for being a part of the solution to a problem that has been with us for so very, very long. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that when you're going through the legislative process, the appropriations process, you really need a champion. You need somebody that's well, you have more than a champion. You actually have a bulldog. And so it's Margaret would not let go of this. She's a great partner to have, and to advocate for the executive branch is one thing, but there's like a million line items in state government, and so with Margaret making it such a priority, it really was the difference, and so I'm proud of the work that she does. I promise you, it would not have happened without her, and so you've got a great advocate in Senator O'Brien, and the support that she receives from the delegation from this area as well really is a great team that works together to make that happen.
Next, I'd like to turn the floor over to Senator Margaret O'Brien, and you've kind of already said it, but without her we wouldn't be here today for the funding that you were able to garner for us, and her tireless efforts to support families of children with autism and other disabilities has been amazing. So, Senator O'Brien.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. It's very kind for people to give me credit, but I really got to put the blame on other people. There's two reasons why we're here. One is the Lieutenant Governor, and the other is the Kalamazoo community. If we step back in time a little bit, in 2011, when I first came into the State House with Representative Nesbitt, we had a change in Lansing, a change in leadership, and people probably thought the last thing we would ever address is insurance coverage for those with autism. It had been tried before, and unfortunately, it had not been successful. That's where you enter in the Lieutenant Governor. My first month in office, he sat me down and talked to me about this issue, and he made a very compelling case about why we needed to do it. Now, I was a little uncertain about an insurance mandate, but he showed me the numbers. He said, look how much money we're gonna save in special education services down the road or other intervention services when we can deal with it very early. And that was when I put a challenge to him and said, well, why aren't we spending our own money? If we're gonna save state taxpayer dollars, why aren't we spending them to invest? And he looked at me and said, can I talk to you about that maybe in a few weeks? I wanna think about that. A few weeks later, he calls me back into his office and says, look at this bill. And that set up the Autism Fund. So I give a lot of credit that too often, when somebody is concerned about a bill and isn't sure if they can support it, too often you just discount that person. You might say, oh, you just don't want to solve the problem. Our Lieutenant Governor listened and he came up with a solution, and now that Autism Fund, that has helped to fund the expansion of the program here at Western Michigan University. It has really helped in ways that we didn't originally even consider. And so I really give that part of the credit to Lieutenant Governor Calley. Now the other part of the problem was we had an international resource here in Kalamazoo County, but yet none of us knew it. And if you were a family with an autistic child, you probably couldn't take advantage of it because in Michigan we just didn't have people who were providing the treatment. Instead, Western was educating them and sending them all across the world. They didn't stay in Michigan because they couldn't get paid. And so I want to give special credit to Dr. Peterson, Dr. Fuqua, Dr. Dunn, and we have Scott Schrum out there. They really took the time when you have a legislator who's new and asked maybe a lot of annoying questions, really took me under their wing and shared with me about what is the need, what are the services. And I like what you said earlier, Stephanie, when you said we can. Because we can do this. Too often we think about issues and we form them along partisan lines, or they get very political. But really there's still a lot of challenges out here. We're here to celebrate today. I think we're celebrating once a year with something new. But there's still people who can't get service. The good news is they can get service in Kalamazoo County, but we've had families from the Upper Peninsula move to Kalamazoo County to get service. We need more services up there. We also have older children who never got to have the early and proper treatment or diagnosis or interventions, who are way behind the game that we need to help. And we have adults who've lived with this their entire lifetime who haven't yet been able to get the services they need so they can live the life that they deserve to live. So there are more challenges, but I'm very optimistic because we can do it. People said we could not solve the issue with insurance and autism, but I'm really optimistic because autism is the perfect, I guess, poster child, for lack of a better word, of how mental and physical health integrate. We know they integrate, but for too long we put you in a physical camp or a mental health camp. We never integrated. So I think as we look at mental health parity, we look at issues and really trying to provide integrated services. I think we can look at what Michigan has done here with embracing the issue of autism and seeing how it makes financial sense, but more importantly, it makes humanitarian sense to really help. And it doesn't have to break the bank to do it. So I really applaud Western for being a leader, for educating me and all of my colleagues, and for just really providing that support to the families. We're the magnet, but it'll be even better when we know that people don't have to relocate to Kalamazoo just to get the needed services for their children. So thank you very much for being here. Congratulations. We can do it, we will do it, and I'm glad to be working with you on it.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Ann Tyler, a speech and language pathologist who is also the Associate Dean of the College of Health and Human Services. Dr. Tyler will be serving as the Director of WECAN, and I've been really, really grateful to her for her incredible leadership on getting this evaluation center open. It's one thing to be a behavior analyst who teaches college students to go work with little kids with autism, and it's a whole nother ball game to set up a clinic that's going to accept insurance and knowing all the ins and outs and what you have to do to get approved through Blue Cross Blue Shield to do that. And Ann did all that along with Kim Bancroft. So I am so grateful to you, and without your long hours we wouldn't be here today either. So Ann.
Thank you, Stephanie. I can reiterate the word excitement to describe what this event marks here in our own backyard, making visible those best-kept secrets, right? It is my pleasure to share with you the unfolding of a vision of collaboration. When WMU developed its proposal for the Autism Center of Excellence, we were keenly aware of the unmet need for families seeking diagnostic services for their children suspected of having an autism spectrum disorder. We also knew that we were committed to best practices and to collaborating across colleges so that we could provide true interdisciplinary services. We have succeeded in creating a center that dissolves boundaries. The home of WECAN, here in Unified Clinics, straddles two colleges, Health and Human Services and Arts and Sciences, where the Autism Center of Excellence resides. The WECAN is staffed by a core team representing multiple disciplines and committed to offering comprehensive interprofessional diagnostic services informed by current research evidence. I want to acknowledge the dedicated work of Dr. Carol Sundberg, Director of Unified Clinics, who welcomed the center to the growing portfolio of clinics, and to the center's coordinator, Dr. Kim Bancroft, clinical psychologist as well, and other team members, including Dr. Mark Sloan, developmental pediatrician, Dr. Michelle Suarez, occupational therapist, and Ms. Carrie Sokola, speech language pathologist. I have seen this team in action. They work together, seamlessly integrating their roles in assessments, uniquely different for each child. They are highly collaborative, sharing and integrating their disciplinary expertise to offer diagnostic clarity beyond that which any one of their members could achieve from a single disciplinary evaluation. They demonstrate that many lenses are necessary to understand complex disorders, such as those on the autism spectrum. We envision the WECAN will become an exemplary model of interprofessional evaluation and diagnostic services. The mission of the center is also to serve as an incubator for pre-professional students to develop essential team-based skills and to generate data that will contribute to guiding and perfecting clinical diagnosis. The WECAN will play a pivotal role in our Southwest Michigan community and beyond by assisting both medical and educational professionals to identify the most efficient route to accurate diagnosis for intervention eligibility and benefits. The WECAN is recognized as an approved autism evaluation center, representing the highest standard for clinical diagnosis and treatment coverage. The center has staged intake and referral processes to help families navigate that difficult path often faced when they first suspect their child may be experiencing developmental challenges. Caregivers are involved in each step of the evaluation, from the initial completion of developmental interview and surveys to the post-evaluation family care conference. WECAN will help children and families dissolve boundaries to reach their highest potential through its comprehensive diagnostic processes and individualized treatment recommendations. WECAN.
Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Arwayne Fuqua, my esteemed colleague in the Department of Psychology at WMU and co-principal investigator on the grant award that we received. Dr. Fuqua was chair before me of the Department of Psychology for 14 years, which is a really long time, by the way, for the chair. I was fortunate to be hired by Dr. Fuqua about 6 or 7 years ago. I've lost track now. And that was a real gift to me to be hired to work here. I can safely say, having worked at a number of other institutions, that he's the best department chair I ever worked for. And so to succeed him in the role was a huge honor because he left very big shoes to fill. So I'd like to invite Dr. Fuqua to the podium to share with you a little bit more about the Department of Psychology and its history in behavior analysis.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'd like to acknowledge a number of people here, and I'll do it fairly briefly. I understand that you need to be on the road fairly soon, Brian. There's an old joke about professors working 24/7, and that's oftentimes interpreted to be 24 hours a week, 7 months a year. In this particular case, 24/7 applies to Stephanie Peterson. In the literal sense, not the figurative sense, I am just amazed at her ability to multitask, to attend to detail, and to do so with a passion for quality work that absolutely astounds me. Thank you, Stephanie, for all of your leadership. You've been fantastic. And of course, thank you to John Dunn for your support. Thank you for Margaret. Brian, for all the wonderful work you've done to secure funding for us. And I'd like to make special thanks also to our colleagues over at Health and Human Services. And I'd also like to say something special about Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley. In addition to all the wonderful advocacy and policy changes, I would like to point out that Brian is by far the most sophisticated public official with respect to autism and behavior analysis that I've ever met. And I told Brian that if he decides to change careers, that I would really like to get him involved in our behavior analysis faculty in some way, shape, or form. And Brian, I hope you do not change careers anytime soon. You're wonderful over there in the job you're doing, so thank you very much. Now, I'd also like to give a little bit of historical perspective real quickly. I'm old enough that I have some historical perspective, and I'm at the golden age where I haven't gotten so old that I've forgotten everything. So let me offer some historical perspective, because we have all these wonderful contemporary collaborators here, but I'd like to point out that nothing of this nature is built in a day. It's built on years and years of fantastic work by a number of people. I joined the faculty here at Western in 1976. For those of you working on the math, I was 10 years old when I joined, but no, not really, okay. But when I joined the faculty, Western's Department of Psychology was already very actively involved in providing behavioral analytics services to children with developmental disabilities and autism. Much of this was happening out at what was called Croydon Avenue School. For those of you who don't recognize it, it's still a building out on North Drake Road here in Kalamazoo that subsequently was replaced by a wonderful place called Woods Edge Learning Center as part of KRISA. I would like to acknowledge that there was a number of faculty that had a major role in laying the foundation for what you're seeing here. When I joined the faculty, Jack Michael, who many of you know as essentially the founder of Applied Behavior Analysis on faculty here in Western Michigan, was already very actively involved out there. A man by the name of Brian Awada was also on the faculty. For those who don't know, Brian was on the faculty at Western and is also internationally known for his development of functional behavior assessment and behavior analysis, which essentially has transformed the provision of services in developmental disabilities and autism. Al Poling was out there, I was out there, but I would like to make special note of Dick Malott. I saw him here someplace. There he is, way back over there. Not only was Dick Malott a leader at that time, but more than anybody else, Dick Malott has sustained his passion and focus on providing behavior analytic, evidence-based, effective services for children on the autism spectrum, more so than anybody I have ever known. He has done more to train more BCBAs and put them out there to do fantastic work. So, Dick Malott, we owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you very much for laying the foundation for what we have here today. Thank you.
Hey, how about a round of applause?
I would point out, of course, that that tradition continues today with the addition of Jessica Frieder and Stephanie Peterson. All of them are on the faculty doing fantastic things. I would also be remiss if I did not also say thank you also to some of the people at the time who were students in the Department of Psychology out at Croydon Avenue School and became essentially internationally known. Some of those include people such as Jerry Shook, who is the founding CEO of the Behavior Analysis Certification Board. This is the certification board that now is up to around 20,000 certificates worldwide. It has grown by just phenomenal amounts. Former faculty, by the way, Jim Carr, is now the current CEO of the Behavior Analysis Certification Board. I would also like to acknowledge that Dr. Mark Sundberg was very actively involved in that particular time. And for those in the autism area, Mark Sundberg has put together the protocol for doing assessment and placement of children in the autism spectrum. It's called the VB-MAP for those who don't know. And the list goes on and on. I would also mention a few other people that are here. Scott Schrum was actively involved in Croydon at that particular time. And Scott has had a major influence in Southwest Michigan as the CEO of Residential Opportunities Incorporated, the organization that's developed the Great Lakes Center for Autism Treatment and Research, and recently opened the Lawrence Autism Center. I believe I saw Laurie Montgomery here also. Thank you, Laurie. Leadership role in KRISA. Somewhere back there I saw Carmen Janitis. Carmen is a classroom instructor out at Woods Edge and has been instrumental in helping Dick Malott run what is the most effective practicum of any I've ever seen in the autism area. So thank you to all of those folks. I could go on and on and on, but once again, I know that the Lieutenant Governor has to get on the road. So let me simply end by saying that thank you to everybody who's collaborating with us currently and to those whose prior work we're building upon. This is indeed an auspicious beginning for our Center of Excellence. Thank you very much.
And finally, I'd like to introduce to you Lisa Gross. Lisa is the Autism Program Section Manager for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And she has been a champion for behavior analytics services in the state, among other important services provided to individuals with autism. Lisa has served as our sounding board for all of our ideas. She's helped us when we couldn't figure out how to get them implemented. She's the first person to always say, what can we do to help you with that? And I'm really grateful for your collaboration. So would you mind saying a couple of words?
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here today, and being the last person to speak and knowing that our governor has to walk out in 1 minute puts a lot of pressure on me. But it really does take a community, as we know, to make everything like this happen today. Many of you are probably wondering, why didn't Western do this earlier? Insurance mandate's almost 3 years old, but I know why, because behind the scenes, they wanted to make sure when this rolled out that everything was right, that the families that come in will get the full evaluation and the diagnostics that they need, that they'll walk out with a plan so they know what they need to put their time, money, and energy into, and that they will have hope. So their kids will go to school, that they will enjoy life, and they will be able to come back here to Western and go to college. I look forward to continuing to work with Western and making sure that we take everything statewide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes the program part. So now we're going to get down to business, and we'll cut the ribbon to mark the official opening of WECAN. I wanted to mention real quickly that after the ribbon is cut, we will not be giving tours of the center as you might typically expect at a ribbon cutting ceremony. And the reason is that down on the 3rd floor where the clinic is located, they're actually delivering clinical services down there right now. So it'd be kind of awkward to give tours, and we want to be sensitive to the confidentiality of the individuals who are down there. So instead, we invite you to have some light refreshments. They're kind of on the other side of the wall here, and just enjoy some fellowship with our community colleagues. So again, thank you all for coming here today and being with us. And so without further ado, let's get at it.
Behind us. Here, John, Grant, Eric, come stand behind you. We'll get them in good. We won't give you the sharp side.
Let's see it that way.
Why does it make you nervous?
Yeah.
All right, everybody run.
So we have to run with scissors.
Okay, what's the signal?
About,
We're doing a practice one right now.
yeah, let's do
We can.
3, 2, 1, we can.
All right.
3, 2, 1, we can.